The Sam in the grey flannel suit is the 20th episode of the 6th season of Cheers. This is directed by Tim Berry, and as always there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And it starts off with Rebecca giving everybody their pay slips. Carla has been docked for being late, which is definitely not something would have happened in Sam's reigning days. And Rebecca gives her a good bit of advice. Set your watch early, so if you're getting somewhere on time, you're actually arriving early. Therefore, if Carla is arriving late, in theory, she's arriving on time. So Carla sets her watch ahead, and it's lunchtime. That's funny, but what's funnier is Woody thinking, oh, it's lunchtime, and getting out his lunchbox. Absolutely adorable. Cliff is then looking at the paper. There is a twin study with $50 apiece. And Carla is suddenly interested in that. Ironically, Rebecca then comes in late. Will she be docking her own pay? I highly doubt it. And it turns out Sam is actually upstairs at Melville's lunching with Evan Drake. And he comes downstairs and Rebecca asks him what's going on. And it turns out he was offered an executive position at headquarters, which seems strange. And it does eventually become clear why this was the case. And we then cut to Sam at his desk in his grey suit. And I have to say, as strange as it is seeing him in that role, in that position, he also kind of suits it. Granted, he does spend most of the episode playing with different toys and the pencil sharpener, but it still looks pretty good. And he then gets some visitors from the firm of Peterson, Clavin and Boyd. And they all come in dressed really smartly, as if they were there for a business meeting. Of course, we have Norm, Cliff, and Woody, and it's really sweet that they've shown up there to support him and also to have a nosy around the building. And they have to leave pretty quickly. I would have liked them to have been there a little bit longer, but honestly, we got as much out of that as we really needed to. And then Evan Drake comes in to check on Sam, and he asks if Sam has any questions, and Sam does have one question. What is it he's supposed to be doing? And that's really the first red flag. I mean, Sam getting hired for the exec position in itself was a red flag. My initial theory was that, and I should point out, I couldn't remember how this episode played out from the first time I saw it. My initial thought was that Evan Drake, as we know, was already a fan of Sam as a baseball player. Back when Rebecca was trying to hire a relief bartender, Evan Drake told her she had to hire Sam. And he obviously became a full-time bartender. And I thought that's why he'd hired him. And it turns out he'd created this position for Sam. And I still was thinking along that wavelength. And that is definitely in itself a red flag. We're then at Cheers. Rebecca is fretting. Carla is back from the twin study. She's very happy. She got paid. Sam then comes in with the corporate softball team. They're all dressed in matching outfits. And Sam has somebody else's name on the back of his softball shirt. And the theory there is that it was somebody who worked for the company, left it behind. They haven't had a chance to get him his own shirt, which is fair enough. And then he tells Rebecca, they just made the playoffs the day before they hired me. And Rebecca realises what's going on. And she talks with Frasier. It's really lovely, the moment where she's talking with Frasier, because they're so close to each other physically. They're touching each other. That sounds more sordid than I meant it to. But Rebecca has her hand on Frasier's shoulder, and at one point Frasier touches Rebecca's hand. And I say this because not that many episodes ago, by which I mean at the beginning of this very season, Rebecca physically interacting with other people never would have happened. And it's really nice that she's warming up to other people and there is physical interaction between them. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it warmed my heart a lot. And Rebecca agreed with Frasier that she wouldn't tell Sam, because clearly Sam was feeling really good about himself, and as much as Sam winds Rebecca up, she didn't want to burst his bubble. It was enough in that moment for her to just know the truth, or at least what she believed to be the truth. Sam made some crass comments about her being a cheerleader. She realised that actually maybe she would tell him after all. And we cut back to Sam in his office. Rebecca visits. It seems like she's about to tell him what she believes is the truth, but then Sam apologises. He apologises for teasing her. That is some massive character development for Sam. because he really realised afterwards that actually what he said really wasn't appropriate. And I think that's absolutely brilliant. He then phoned his father. His father, for the first time apparently, said he was really proud of him, which is interesting. Does that mean his father wasn't proud of him when he was playing for the Red Sox? Because that seems like a pretty incredible achievement. Granted, we know Sam's brother is very much the golden boy, so maybe Sam just would never have been good enough until he did something like get himself an executive position. So maybe it is the first time his father has said that. Says more about his father than it does Sam, though. And Sam is wanting to fly his parents out. Rebecca realises she can't let Sam go through with this, because obviously by the time he arranges to fly his parents out, he's going to have no longer had his job. And she tells him that he's the ringer, and he doesn't believe her. I don't know if it's that he doesn't believe her or that he doesn't want to believe her. So he tries to prove her wrong. And Mr. Drake is actually in a sales meeting at that point. A meeting Sam probably should have been in if he had a legitimate position. But nevertheless, he goes to speak with him, and it's clear that things are not going in a favourable direction. And this becomes very clear when somebody there says, I didn't give up my office for 2 weeks to let this guy do paperwork. And it's the guy whose softball shirt Sam was wearing. Very clear that this was just a hire so they could win the softball tournament or whatever it is they were doing. So that's not exactly great. Cuts to Sam coming back to Cheers. And Rebecca, who was in her office, had previously told them to be nice to Sam because he would be shattered. So Sam goes into Rebecca's office and tells her he is shattered. And I feel like he was mostly playing up to that to get her affection. But at the same time, I feel like part of him actually did feel like that, because for once he felt like he'd achieved something in his professional life outside of baseball, and that had basically been ripped out from underneath him, which is going to hurt. And he tries it on with Rebecca, and Rebecca realizes she just cannot fight his advances anymore. So she just says, fine. And she says to him, take me here, take me now, please, please. Basically as flatly as I've said that. Brilliant performance. She basically ends up playing dead and ends up on the floor. And it was a nice way to end things. It's a really great episode. Obviously, seeing Sam being really excited about this, proud of himself, when we know that actually it's about to all come crashing down, isn't great. But we have some really great moments with Rebecca and how she handled the situation. Loved that moment of closeness with Frasier. And some really, really thought-provoking moments for Sam as a person with his character. And ultimately, as I always say, mostly always say, the Sam in the grey flannel suit is a really brilliant episode of Cheers.